Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. All right. Hi, everyone. Again, if you're just joining us, thank you for being with us this afternoon for Bioinformatics Career Skills for 2024 with our speakers, Janani Rangarajan and Paul Saunders. My name is Carrie Williams. I'm the Communications and Information Officer here at Extension. Before we jump in, let me just give you a few fun facts about us. We are the professional education branch of UC Santa Cruz. Our campus is based here in Silicon Valley in Santa Clara. You can see some of our neighbors there. We offer 6 areas of study, the newest and youngest being pre-med, which just launched last year. We're very excited about it. We offer over 300 courses, which can be taken individually or packaged towards specializations, series, certifications. We offer a variety of learning modalities, including online, live online, in person. Many of our certificates are F1 visa compliant and may be supported by workforce programs. We are an accredited University of California institution, and we do offer a pay-as-you-go sort of course-by-course pay structure, which we hope helps to create a more affordable learning option for our students. And of course, we believe our biggest asset is our roster of experienced and networked instructors who so generously share their expertise and support with our students. And 2 of those instructors are with us today. So let me give you a quick look at our schedule so you have a sense of what to expect. We're going to do intros and housekeeping. I'll wrap that up in just a minute, I promise. And then we're going to hand things over to our speakers. We're planning on about 40-45 minutes for presentations, and then we'll be excited to take your questions at about that 45-minute mark. I'll wrap things up with just a few upcoming courses, which we think might help to build out and complement today's conversation. While I have you, in terms of housekeeping, you may have seen we are recording today's session, so do keep an eye out in the coming week or so with just a slightly polished, more edited version of today's recording. We'll include that as well as a link to those courses I mentioned. As I said, Q&A can go in our Q&A box, but do feel free to add questions to the box as questions come to you, and then we'll just start to tick through them as soon as we wrap up our slides. I think that's it. If we don't get to your question today, or if you think of anything later, you can always email us at extension@ucsc.edu. Someone will be happy to follow up with you shortly. All righty, so let me bring in our speakers. Leading us today is Janani Rangarajan. She is a bioinformatics program chair and instructor. She's a statistical data analysis at Gilead Sciences. She supports the quality risk management department with data analysis for plant-wide interdepartmental KPIs. She has extensive experience with bioinformatics tools, databases, and methods. And she is teaching an upcoming course starting April 2nd, Bioinformatics Tools, Databases, and Methods. Also with us is Paul Saunders. Paul is a bioinformatics program instructor. He is a biotechnology consultant. He holds a doctorate in pharmacology and toxicology and professional certificates in genomic data science and bioinformatics. And he's teaching a brand new course, which we're very excited about, Concepts in Next-Gen Sequence Analysis. And that kicks off in just a few weeks on March 11th. So let me stop my share. Janani, Paul, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Carrie. Let me start sharing. Thank you so much, Carrie, for introducing us. And I want to tell you about myself. I'm Janani Rangarajan. I've been teaching with Extension for about 13 years, and I've been the chair from 2019. And I'm really excited and thrilled today to be here to share about our certificate program and give you guys a little bit. This is the link that takes you directly to our certificate. And I want to talk to you more about the courses that we offer and also talk to you guys about the current job market and what are the different roles available in the current market for a bioinformatician. So thank you so much for being here. So in our certificate program, we have 4 required courses. One is the Bioinformatics Tools, Databases, and Methods, which I teach. And that kind of gives you a little bit of an introduction and that helps you with trying to get you introduced to the field. And experimental methods in molecular biology, people who come from background in IT or computer science, it helps you understand the basics of molecular biology and genes and stuff like that. And next-gen sequencing is taught by Paul. And it helps you with like how to extract the raw data, and like it gives you like a hands-on experience with next-gen sequencing tools. And we also collaborate with IT department and computer science. So we do Python, and we also have some electives, which is a total of 6 units. So you can choose between either data analysis or genomics. There's drug discovery. So we have like different choices for you to choose the electives. And if you come from a strong statistics background, I would recommend like taking something that's like drug discovery. So if you come from a strong biology background, so you can take something else. Like if you come from a database, so you can like pick and choose the electives based on what you want to learn. And also we have a course that Paul is going to start teaching in March. It's a short introduction to next-gen sequencing. So instead of like to kind of get you into the field, to kind of like make you understand the basic concepts of it. So we're very excited and thrilled. And I hope if you haven't checked it out, if you don't want to get started with the certificate, if you just want to, kind of try it out, I think I recommend trying that course and seeing if you like it, and before you enroll into a certificate. So now to talk about specializations in bioinformatics. So there are different types of specializations. So one is called the bioinformatics scientist. So the bioinformatics scientists are people who are biologists who use these tools to analyze the data they create. So these are the people who are in the lab, and they do like a lot of scientific experiments, and they generate a lot of data. And these are the people who use the tools that have been created and try to make sense out of the data. And then we have bioinformatic users. So we usually, like a lot of physicians or like genetic counselors, they use these data for their job, and they help it to diagnose and like treat and help patients. And the last thing that we're going to mostly be talking about today, and this is what our certificate and other grad school and everything prepares you for, is as a bioinformatician, is a bioinformatic engineer is one term to use it. I think the others you can use it like a bioinformatics programmer, bioinformatic analysts are the other names we would give to that. So these are the professionals who use these statistical sciences and the computational skills. And what they do is they create these softwares, they create these innovative methods that the scientists and the users are able to use and make sense of their data. So these engineers or the programmers are the ones who design and create all these different tools that helps you analyze the data. And I've had a lot of students ask me, should we, as soon as we finish our grad school or after a couple of years of experience, like, should we choose universities, or should we go into like a industry, like a pharmaceutical company, or what should we do? So this is something that I ask people to like kind of think about, take a step back before you commit, and what job do you want to do? Is as a work itself, like I've worked in both university setting. I've also been in a pharmaceutical industry. I've also worked in a hospital-based setting. So I've worked in all three different things. So with me, I would say that the university or academics is more laid back, more stress-free, whereas an industry setting or a pharmaceutical company is more intense. I'm not talking about a startup pharmaceutical company. I'm talking about a well-established, like, when you go in, there's a certain expectation, which is, they expect like accuracy, right? So they are going to be needing, like, it's a more stressful, like they have deadlines and projects and stuff like that in an industry. Whereas academic settings is more, I at least found in my experience that it's more relaxed. You take your time to like do stuff, understand things, and be that. So as a work-life balance, like for me, I found academic setting or university to be more relaxed. And stability wise, I think university based or like an academic based is more stable, in the sense that once you receive a funding or you're towards a project, I think whereas in a pharmaceutical company, there's suddenly a need for a huge number of people to do a certain project or like to do a certain goal, like, once that achieved, there's more layoffs in the industry compared to an academic, where you keep progressing, you keep doing stuff, and as long as there is grants, right? And coming to the next one, which is funding, which is another big role, which is academic institutions are heavily relied on funding. So the professors or the assistant professors and everybody who's working towards that team, they have to apply for funding. They have to apply for grants. So that's how you get it. Whereas in a pharmaceutical company, they have profit base. So they have like a lot of profits that's coming. So they usually self-fund. And, the pay scale is definitely like much higher in an industry, right? So in a pharmaceutical company, or like if you're working in a commercial industry, so the pay scale is definitely much higher compared to universities. These are like I've had these questions asked to me multiple times before, so I kind of wanted to clarify today, like why choose industry versus academics or university. And a lot of people have told me that I really, really want to start in a pharmaceutical company. I just graduated, I just finished my master's, I just finished my PhD, I just finished my certificate, but I want to go into an industry. I really do. So that's their goal. And they said they've applied for like 3 years now, or 2.5, 3 years. This not getting offers, they're not getting any jobs. So they're like so puzzled as to why is that? Like, why can't I end up getting a job in an industry? So I feel like industry looks for more experience. So I've advised those students to kind of go into, if it's really a struggle to get into an industry, I tell them to go into an university for a couple of years, 1 or 2 years, get a little bit of get some experience, then apply to an industry, because sometimes going directly into a pharmaceutical company, they require a lot of experience, and they like people with previous years of experience. So if you're just a fresh graduate, I recommended you to either work in a university for 1 or 2 years, then try to, with that experience, apply to a pharmaceutical company. And the other option that I really like is working with a physician or working in a hospital with a bioinformatics background, especially in certain places, there is not a specific job for a bioinformatician directly related to a research, in the sense like you're not directly a part of the certain research or certain projects, but you are part of a bioinformatics support system, which means like the researchers or the physicians, whoever is working, they send the data to you, and you in the sense like your group as a bioinformatics support group, and they analyze the data and give the results back. So they're basically like a team that just does the calculations, does the work, and give it back to them. So they don't actually get directly involved in the research or publications or any kind of like directly to the project. So they are a support network. And the other thing is like working in a hospital or with a physician, or being involved in a clinical setting or a clinical data is also really nice, because it's kind of intermediate between a university and an industry, where the university jobs or academic jobs are like, more towards pay scale is not that good, and the industry is like, the expectations is really high. So I would say that working in a hospital setting or like in a physician, working with a physician is like intermediate between those two, is at least my my take on that. And this kind of like, I really like this way that this kind of gives you an idea as to, if you enter academics, if you don't have a PhD, if you end up having a bachelor's, or if you're doing a certificate, or if you're just doing a master's, I think the role in a university or academic setting becomes like, you start with a research assistant, research technician, and then you come as a research associate, or a senior research associate is what you can get to, and if you want to go beyond that, if you want to be a postdoctoral researcher, an assistant professor, associate professor, or a professor, I think to get to all this, you need a PhD. You cannot expand or like go further beyond in academics if you don't end up having a PhD. Whereas in industry, if you're able to get into an industry as a junior bioinformatics person, or a bioinformatics scientist one, as they call, and you are able to further promote yourself into a scientist 2 or scientist 3, senior bioinformatics scientist, head of bioinformatics. So you can actually progress in an industry, because they look at more years of experience versus the actual qualifications. It's nice to have a PhD, but I'm just saying that if you have only a bachelor's, but you have like 15 years of experience, you can still become the head of bioinformatics, so there is that thing with academics. So you have to think really, with a certificate or with whatever grad school that you decide to go to, you are going to be capped off in an academic setting. Like the max you can go to is a research associate or a senior research associate. There's not further that you cannot become a professor, or that's the way it is. And whereas in the industry, I really think that you can further expand yourself, and you can keep promoting yourself and be able to, progress with years of experience. And I wanted to tell you about the jobs that are in the market right now. But you'll be hearing a lot of these terms. I just want you guys not to be confused. And what these mean is a bioinformatics analyst or a technician is something that you'll see more commonly in when you apply for a job. And a analyst and a technician, I'm going to show you some of the job examples that I saw like posted today or like last week, so you guys get an idea of what they're looking for and what are the skills that are definitely needed as a bioinformatics person. And the bioinformatics analyst and a technician are people who use the current softwares, use the current available tools, and use a little bit of programming skills as well. Like they use R and they kind of use it for the analysis. And a bioinformatics specialist is somebody, for example, like Paul is going to be teaching next-gen sequencing. So if you are a specialist, that means you are really into the next-gen sequencing pipelines. You know how to handle those data. You know how to analyze them. So you can actually apply for a bioinformatics specialist. And a bioinformatics programmer or an engineer, they're interchangeable. You'll see those words very commonly like posted. So they actually design those softwares, whatever the analyst or the others use, the softwares that's available. So they create that. So they design that. They design as an engineer, the engineers design it, and the programmers actually code and make that happen. Like they actually create those softwares. And another thing you'll see is a computational biologist or a structural biologist. They work with more modeling they work with more drug designs and like the 3D modeling of protein structures. So that's another field that's very exciting. And also bioinformatics consultant is somebody I just told you about who is a third party, or like they could just be consulted. So you could just provide like advice to these people, like how to analyze their data. And you're just basically a consultant that helps these researchers get their job done. And the last thing is a biostatistician, which also kind of falls under this category because sometimes you need a knowledge of bioinformatics, but your specialization or your strength is basically in statistics. So you're very good with like, the statistician modeling and stuff like that. So then you can apply to a biostatistics job. So these were some of the postings that I saw online that was posted within this last week. So one was a research assistant position in Northwestern University. So if you can look, it says, so research assistant. So they'll be doing like, actually hands-on, they'll be in the lab doing stuff, but still they look for people with experience, strong interest in genomics, and they prefer candidates with bioinformatics. So they like people who have these genomics background in bioinformatics. So you could still get into this with just bachelor's, and maybe this is an ideal thing where if our certificate is there, like, you have these experiences, but you don't have to have a master's or a PhD. So this is a job that I saw. Then there's another one from Emory University that was posted, I think, yesterday, which is a bioinformatics analyst. And they require a master's degree in bioinformatics or biostatistics. And they want somebody with experience with genomic data. And you can see that they always ask for some kind of programming. Usually Linux command line is kind of a must. You should have some strong basics with Unix and Linux command. And usually some kind of proficiency in R or bioconductor, and Python is definitely recommended. And there was another job that's from University of Kentucky, a bioinformatic analyst. The same thing, you can see that they ask for some scripting languages. Usually R and Python is preferable, and Unix and Linux is must needed. And if you have more experience with databases, it's definitely a plus. And this is something I told you about. It's bioinformatics engineer. They require just not like basic experiences with programming, but they require strong programming skills. As an engineer, or when you see a word bioinformatics engineer or a bioinformatics programmer, which means you definitely need like a more stronger programming experience with familiarity in next-gen sequencing. So that's another tool that's why I recommend like Paul's class, the seminar, because we really wanted to see that most of the jobs that I see ask for next-gen sequencing, familiarity with that. So I think like just taking his like short course will be that's an added thing you can put in your resume. So that's why we added that. And definitely R Python again. And this was another interesting job, is a bioinformatics specialist. Like I mentioned to you, like, we see bioinformatics programmer, we see bioinformatics engineer. A bioinformatics specialist is somebody that University of Chicago just posted, which is supporting and maintaining automated pipelines for the next-gen sequencing analysis, maintaining and upgrading our in-house NGS data analysis. So they want somebody specialized in this, who have experiences with this, and who could do computing, who can do programming. Those are like the basic needs that you usually see for a bioinformatician. Another one is a bioinformatic analyst. That shows, here you can see that it's more of a biostatistician, in the sense that you just have to look into the wordings that is required, like advanced SAS. So you can always, like, you want to be honest in your resume, you want to say what you know, but based on the job position, that you really cannot, when you go into the field, be an expert in everything, right? Like, it's a really vast field. So the idea of this presentation today is to kind of like help you. And what we do in our certificate program is like see these job trends, current markets, and see what they're asking for, what the demand is. And then we kind of like shuffle our courses such a way that offers the current market trends, because it keeps changing. As technology keeps developing, you see these new trends. So we try to stay with the current trends and try to be able to offer that to our students. And this one was a bioinformatics senior analyst. And I said about when sometimes working in a hospital setting or with physicians. So this is one of them that does pipelines and existing softwares. Sometimes you should be able to knowledgeable to be able to use the existing softwares, and sometimes you should be able to use the bioinformatic tools that are already available. So you should be like experienced in the previously available tools and be able to use those, as much as being able to build new tools as well. And this one is an associate director of bioinformatics and genomic analysis. And they ask again for NGS workflows, deep understanding of that. And you can see that they want R, they want Python, they want experience with genomic tools and high throughput NGS. So this is kind of something that other jobs that I saw that was posted this week and 2 days ago was a bioinformatics lead that has like a good pay scale. And there's a senior bioinformatics research scientist from St. Jude's Hospital, and bioinformatician, and a senior scientist, computational biologist. So all these kind of, when I looked at all these different jobs, everything kind of requires programming, R, Python, and NGS tools. So there are like 10 different things that that are definitely required, a must required for all these jobs. So when we look at that, our certificate kind of covers those. And the reason why you want to do a certificate with us is we have very short, flexible courses, and flexible in the sense that we offer online, we offer through Zoom meetings, we offer sometimes in person, there's hybrid. So we offer these short courses that can be taken by anybody who lives anywhere. And our courses mostly focus on understanding the basic concepts, because working in industry, working in academics, I've realized that you cannot ever be prepared for 100% for any job. Like, there's always a learning curve. As soon as you get hired, there's always a place where you have to go and learn the basics of how they work. But the basic concepts, the basic understanding is a must, so you can easily adapt to any job scenario. And we give hands-on training. A lot of our courses are hands-on, where you can actually go and see what's required in the industry, be able to work with real data. And the other thing about UCSC Silicon Valley Extension, which is great, is networking. So they offer a lot of networking events where people from industry, people from universities, because Silicon Valley Bay Area is a big bio hub, and people from all these industries and universities come, and they have a networking events where you get to meet those people and talk with them. And we also have like a lot of really good instructors, and who are mentors, who've been, great guidance to all of our students who work in academics, who work in industry. They are a great guide to all the students, and they've been and a lot of students have been asked, when they finish our certificate, they ask, can we put your name as a reference? Because you know us, you've been with us in this journey. So can we please put your name as a reference? And Paul has been great. And a lot of other instructors have been really great in guiding those students and being good mentors for them. So I really encourage you guys to check out the new short course we're offering, and also our certificate that has all these like really good courses that helps in the current market. And we're always hiring new instructors. So if you know either you or anybody else who has good experience in a certain field like programming or any kind of molecular biology, please go to this link that's there and fill out the form, because we always look for new instructors that can help teach us. Thank you so much. Paul, do you want to take over?
Okay, fine. I'll take over. Hello, my name's Paul Saunders. I'm a pharmacologist by training, and I took the bioinformatics certificate a few years ago, and I liked it enough that I stayed on and taught it. And I'm teaching a new course in a couple of weeks called Professional Development Seminar, Concepts in Next Generation Sequence Analysis. Now, the reason I developed this course is because I saw a need for a course where somebody who's not any experienced in molecular biology at all, but needs to interface with people who are. Let me give you an example of a type of person who might need this. When I was a postdoc, there was a gentleman in my lab who was a very good pharmacologist, but he was having trouble finding a job. And he was coming to the end of his fellowship, and he really needed to find something else. So what he did was he went and he jumped into another lab, which did a lot of molecular biology, the really high-powered, cutting-edge sorts of things. And he was a great talker. So what he did was he talked and he found out what the people in the lab were doing, and he learned how to read what they were, the type of things they were doing, the issues involved, and basically learned how to talk the talk and walk the walk. So that when he got to a point where he found an opportunity, he was able to handle it. He went to what was called a cattle call at the patent office, and he was able to convince the people that he knew enough about molecular biology to actually review patents on molecular biology. So having the knowledge, not necessarily being able to do it, but being able to understand what the issues in the field were and how to access the data and its forms and critically evaluate the data got him a job which he wouldn't have had otherwise. So here are the things that are in this new course that I'm going to be teaching. We're going to tell you what the next generation sequencing can do. I'll introduce the topics in molecular biology, how the sequencing is done, and types of sequencing data that you can obtain. And once you have, that's first level. And then the second level is understanding how to critically evaluate existing data so that you can actually go in and look at different types of data in the literature or some sort of a submission and actually look at the data and find out what's useful in the data and be able to understand the analytical limitations and when people are trying to give you a snow job. It's also important to be able to know the approaches to interpret the data and accessing data databases so that you can find out how to verify the data that people have and find out more information about any particular topic in the field that you're being asked to talk to. And this is something that is important not just for people who want to have the hands-on doing the molecular biology, but it's also important for people who are, say, for example, administrators who are required to evaluate the molecular biology and sequencing data as part of decision-making processes. So here's an example of the type of things that my course will be introducing. And this is one that's very important in modern medicine. It's called pharmacogenomics. And this is a case, this is a classic case study where it's about a drug called isoniazid. And isoniazid is a drug that's about 100 years old, but it's still part of the mainstay of treating mycobacteria, such as tuberculosis and leprosy. So this is a drug that is extremely common use, but there is a problem with this, that it's a classic in pharmacogenomics. When they first started using this drug in the Hawaiian Islands, they found that the doses that they were giving people were far too high and they were having significant toxicity. And the reason for it is that there are two types of people who can metabolize this drug. They're called fast acetylators, which is the way that it's initially inactivated, and slow acetylators. So, and it's a genetic trait. And the and depending on which genetic trait you have, you will either be a fast or a slow acetylator. In Hawaiian Islands, they have somewhere around 60% of the people are slow acetylators. So it's important to understand which group you are in before you start using this drug, because they have to change the dose regimen. Now, if you look over on the bottom of the slide, you see that the enzyme that's involved in metabolizing this drug is called N-acetyltransferase. And there are two versions of this enzyme, 1 and 2, and the primary one that's important for isoniazid is the second one. And there are a whole series of small point mutations in this compound, and they're designated by NAT and then a star and a number. So it's NAT4, NAT13, NAT11, NAT25, and NAT6, T26. Now, this is from a paper where they're going through and evaluating in a particular population the number of fast and slow acetylators. So this was from a paper where they did a small study on tuberculosis patients in Kenya. And so in this particular study, they found a whole series of different mutations. And there are a couple of different ways that they're annotated. There's the mutation site, which is, for example, there's an base number 341 going from a thymine to a cytosine. And that causes a change in protein structure where you go from an isoleucine 114 to a threonine. So that causes a change in the protein structure. And this causes the enzyme to go a lot slower than it would in the normal case. And so these people are designated as slow acetylators. And in this particular study, they found 14 people in this roughly 90 patients study, and they were about 18% of the population. Whereas they had another one, the star 6, which was about 6%. So overall, in this particular study, there were about 25% of the population were slow acetylators. And the frequency of slow acetylators varies considerably. This is a fairly low number. In the United States, African Americans are about 60% slow acetylators. So if you going into any sort of a drug treatment, it's very useful to have this sort of information so that you can avoid killing your patients. You know, and one of the things that's frequently done is that before a drug treatment is started, particularly where there is a very narrow therapeutic window, they'll do a drug pharmacogenomics screen, and they'll do things like testing for the different variants on the N-acetyltransferase. So that is what the issue is, and here are some of the tools that you learn how to use. For example, once you have the data in hand, you can plug it into various different types of viewers. And the University of California at Santa Cruz is a premier location for genomics. And they have a really marvelous viewer program called the Genomic Viewer, where you can plug in a sample and it will show you the variants that are known, and then also the variants in particular of particular interest. For example, if you look over on the top right, you see that there's a circle where that is a particular variant which is found in the canyons. And so if we go over to the National Library of Medicine, we can look up that particular RS number and then find that, yes, this is a variant which has a effect on the drug metabolism. And then you can also look down further in the database and find out how it's any interesting information about it. For example, this is a particular one that's very common in Asia, and it seems to have been related to when people started eating lots of carbohydrates like rice. So there's interesting information that you can find out about variant and what its pharmacological and evolutionary and toxicologic effects are. And in many cases, this information will also have you information about what drugs are indicated or not indicated in a particular condition. So that, just being able to go from having data that's been fully processed through this picking out a particular variant, through being able to determine whether it's a slow or fast acetylator, and then also finding alternatives, or whether something is indicated or not, is the sort of thing that you'd be able to do after taking the course that I'm offering. So if you like the little dip your toe in the pond course that I offer coming up in the next month, I also offer a course where I actually teach how to get hands-on and get your hands into the meat of the data, so you can process it from the very beginning to the end. The sort of thing that if you were going to be the technical assistant in a hospital or in an academic lab, where you would get the raw data in and you process it to the point where you can get an answer. We have that course available, and that starts in June. And this is part of the overall bioinformatics package that we have in the certificate course. Okay, so I'll pass the presentation off to the monitor, please.
All right, thank you, Paul. Thank you, Janani. We already have one question in the Q&A. Let me read it for you. This guest already has a bachelor's in microbiology as well as a master's in microtechnology and postgraduate diploma in bioinformatics. It sounds like they have a lot of experience in the field, but they've taken a break to raise children, and they're wondering how can the course help me network and get back in the industry?
So you said the person has what in bioinformatics?
A bachelor's in microbiology, a master's in biotechnology, postgraduate diploma in bioinformatics.
That's great. I mean, I think I don't know when this person had all this, like 10 years ago or 15 years ago. I'm not sure. when, but based on like, I mean, you already have all the qualifications, you have the basics. So I think I'm not sure when you studied, when it was, and I'm not sure when you studied how much of the latest trends was there, like how much next gen sequencing you learned. And I think if you think our certificate is redundant, or if it's like, it's going over the same thing you already know, I would say pick and choose. If you have strong programming knowledge, if you're very good with R, Python, then you can skip all the programming courses. If you think you want to learn more about the next gen sequencing and like learn more about the next gen sequencing concept, we have one course by Paul, and there's another course as well that explains all this. So it's in our elective, so you can either choose the Paul's course or both of those. It just depends on how far ahead did you study, and how much of the latest if you look at that's why I shared the job markets, what they're asking for, what they're looking at. And the job markets right now really need somebody with good programming skills. And that's kind of become a must. And that's why our certificate collaborates with the IT, the computer science, because they have a great established programming instructors. They've been doing this for years, and the programming they teach this basics, and they teach basic Python, and it's really, really good. So that's why we are partnered with them. And because we've realized that, over the period, bioinformatics used to be 10 years ago, it used to be such a way that you use the tools that have already been created. And, you just had to have the knowledge of going and plugging in the data, getting the results. But right now, the data is getting bigger and bigger. And the need for a bioinformatician is also getting a lot because of the huge amounts of data that's being generated every day. So to handle such a huge data, you need to have the basic Linux, basic Unix, and you need to know R, you need to know Python. This has become a must. You don't have to be like proficient, you don't have to be a huge programmer, but at least having a basic knowledge in these four different areas of programming has become a must, and understanding the basic biology concepts is a must when you want to be a bioinformatician. Understanding basic statistics is a must. So it just depends on what field you're looking into going to. But I think refreshing, especially the things that you don't remember, or refreshing things that, things have changed over the years. So I think maybe just doing a refresher, and especially to getting the programming knowledge and the next gen sequencing is something that I would recommend.
Thanks, Janani. Okay, we have another one. Can you read that, or I can read it? Sahichi says, I recently obtained my master's degree in molecular biology 1 year ago, and I want to switch to bioinformatics background and explore the jobs. Will this certificate program be enough to obtain a job in the industry, or do I have to gain more experience by working in the university as a research assistant?
So you say you have recently obtained master's degree in molecular biology. So it was just 1 year ago. So I'm guessing that you don't have a lot of job experience. So I think getting a certificate, which enough, getting a certificate should be enough to be able to get you feet in the industry if it's a startup industry. Like, to be honest, I'm not sure if you want to go to like Pfizer, or if you want to go to something like a big, really big industry. They do look for a little bit of experience. So I think as I said, I would recommend, there are so many new biotech startup companies in San Jose and San Francisco and other places that also offers remote jobs. They also offer jobs that can be hybrid, like, commuting a couple of days. So even if you don't live in the area, even if you don't live in Boston, San Diego, and San Jose, like, I would say those three are like the main places with all the startup industries, at least according to my knowledge. So if you don't live in the area, there are so many remote positions. So if you definitely want to go into industry and you don't want to explore academics or hospital setting, I would say that you could try the startup industry. So certificates should be good enough for you to be able to get a job in a startup pharmaceutical company, and then expand yourself and apply to these big pharma companies that does require experience. But I would also recommend you to log in every day and see, because there were I was like shocked to see some of these really big pharma companies that requires people who just graduated too. They do sometimes open up jobs that are for people with no experience as well. So I think it's really, you just have to do your research and just keep logging in and checking as to see what the current job needs. But according to my experience, at least a big established pharmaceutical company usually requires a couple of years experience. And I think getting our certificate will definitely help you to explore this option and get into like a startup company, or like at least be able to get into a research position, or a hospital, like children's hospital, or there are so many different places that you can apply to. So
Well, to add on to what Janani is saying, I think that the courses that are taught in the certificate are things that are valuable to supplement your own existing credentials. It's one of these things where it may be that they're asking for 5 things and you have only 3. So if you can get yourself up to having 4 or 5 characteristics that they're asking for, that might be a help. So I think that that's one of the things. And often, if you're looking for a job in bioinformatics, particularly in the startups, they need somebody right now who will help them set up. And type of things that we teach will be the sorts of things that are the very, very basic rudimentary skills that would be useful to somebody who has to hit the ground running.
that's perfect. Thanks, Paul. And I think also with our certificate, there are some people who come with, like, as you said, you've had a master's in molecular biology. So when you come with such a strong basics of molecular biology, and if you're offering that course and you've already have like, you've been to grad school and you're knowledgeable in that field. So with the extension, you can email extension and like ask to take a different course. It doesn't have to be from us. It can also be from like a different university or like wherever, and transfer the credits. Because since you're already having the knowledge in a certain field and doing our certificate, if you want to explore more options and not do the same thing, you can substitute the 3 credits and do another course in a different university. I think there's a process to do that. I'm sure they can explain to you, but at least that'll help you not redo the molecular biology that you've already learned.
Okay, any final thoughts, Paul or Janani? Like to share with the group?
Oh, I just want to thank everybody for being here. And I really hope you guys check out Paul's short course, because I'm very thrilled for it. And I'm very excited because after thinking about looking at the current job market trends and looking at all this, we finally realized that the current trends really require next-gen sequencing to be a strong tool to get a job, to land a job. So I think offering a short course in next-gen sequencing, getting you used to that field. I think even if you don't want to commit to a certificate yet, or at least think about our certificate in the future, but I think I really recommend you to check out the short course offered in March. I think it'll be very good.
Absolutely.
And I think the course might be a good place for you to decide whether this is something that you want to pursue in any further detail.
Yes.
I think that I give a sort of a survey of what the basic concepts are, and give you a way to actually sort of start looking at, is this something where I want to be involved in this in any greater depth? So I would encourage you to take this to decide whether you want to go on in the field.
Absolutely.
Okay, so as promised, here's a look at our course lineup. You'll see Paul and Janani's courses listed there, as well as a few others. As I said at the beginning, we did record today's session, so when we send out the recording, we'll be sure to include links to this course, as well as some other links that we hope can help to sort of not just build out today's conversation, but give you a sense of what you could expect if you want to pursue the program in full. There's a link to our extension page. We're constantly adding new events and hopefully more events like this, more bioinformatics events as well. So keep an eye out there. Of course, we want to thank you for being here with us today. I know this is late afternoon, so we appreciate you making the time. Janani and Paul, thank you so much for all this great information, sharing your insights. We feel so grateful. One more plug for Extension. If you think of anything or you want to email us later, you can always do so at extension@ucsc.edu. You can see it there at the bottom of your screen. And we hope to see you on campus again soon. So take care. Bye, everyone. Thank you.